It all started back in 2013.
Data wants to be free.
Let's call bullshit on people who are bullshitting us as well, and that's how we're going to build the future of finance, all of us together, and that's how we're going to move forward.
Sounds good to me.
There's something magical about the crypto valley.
You create money more than any kind of central banks doing.
Blockchain will revolutionize trust on a global scale.
You can feel the entrepreneurial spirit everywhere.
This is Crypto Valley Visionaries Podcast.
Crypto Valley Visionaries.
Welcome to Crypto Valley Visionaries Podcast. This is your host Ivana here, and together with my co-host Ralph, in this podcast we interview entrepreneurs and visionaries from the global blockchain scene. Together we explore how blockchain technology is changing the world, and we discuss different stories from their entrepreneurial journey. Today we get to sit down with Luka Mueller, the founding partner of the law firm MME and the co-founder and chairman of the board of Signum. Luka was in Silicon Valley during the dot-com boom. He helped structure the Ethereum Foundation in Switzerland, and he started several different companies, one of which is MME, a large Swiss legal firm, and Signum, the world's first licensed crypto bank. In this episode, we talk with Luka about the early days of Crypto Valley, when Ethereum first came and settled down in Zug. We touch upon what is the secret formula that makes some projects succeed or fail, and we talk about how important it is to hire the right people at the right time that not only have good execution skills, but also fit into the team culture. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode.
I mean, the interview was very nice. You didn't ask me really nasty questions, so the sweat level was low. Thank you very much for that,
Welcome, Luka, to CV Labs and the podcast with Crypto Valley Visionaries. Luka, you were in the Silicon Valley in the dot-com boom. You helped give birth to Ethereum, decentralized computational network, and the bank. And you founded a law firm too. So what are you, a lawyer, a banker?
I think I'm driven by passion. I like whatever I do. I love. And if I love it, then I try to develop it. I try to find ways to make it a bit more efficient and to have fun. And that was actually the reason why I founded all these, or helped to found and to set up all these different initiatives, companies, all my life long.
Many people don't know that you were early on in the startup scene. So you were in fintech in the early 2000s, and how was it at the time? I mean, you were also trying to do something in Zug. How was that?
Yeah, look, actually, when we were in 1999, 2000, we were in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and then we saw the potential of a web interface. So we saw the web interface interaction of clients and service providers, and we saw a potential that we could actually service or let's say issue via a web platform shares. And that what we tried and that was a company called I4C was the name of the company. We had a POC to issue shares, but really web interface based. And but at that time, we were studying the law, and it was so many aspects, which was against us, and then we ran out of money actually at the end of the day. But that was in 2000, 2001. And in 2003, I saw that the law will be changed on the AML side, and that the financial intermediaries had to actually have access to a very efficient way to open public sources of compliant relevant information. So then I started KYC Spider together with a ETH spin-off. And that was in 2003, and first AI tool to search the web, and to find compliant, relevant information for the financial intermediaries. That was in 2003, and at the same time, in '99, I actually started my law firm with two of my colleagues. So I had I4C at that time. I had the MME, KYC Spider, and in the early days, I was even president of the local chamber of commerce here in Zug.
That's amazing. So it's kind of interesting. So I know you tried to create some movement here on the, basically with your first fintech in the early 2000s. Now again, it's 2015, 16, where a real boom happened in Zug. How would you compare these two times? What do you think has changed?
We had 2008. 2008 again focused on a complete other side. We were actually as financial crisis, a full load of new regulations heading us, and business was doing well. Maybe I have to add that at that time, we had also a change in the gaming law in Switzerland. The gaming law in 2000, and I set up the whole anti-money laundering criminal defense scheme for the whole Swiss industry. At that time, you can imagine we had in 2000 a new law. As from 2000, all the applicants could apply for a license to run a casinos. And I think at that time I had about 70% of the market in advising all these projects, setting up casinos in Switzerland. So I was doing a lot of gaming law, but more the compliance AML process side of the gaming. And shortly after that, I had a lot of requests from online gaming applications. To what extent is it possible to offer and to run online gaming activities here in Switzerland? And then in 2013-14, we had the first Bitcoin legal assistance requests, in a way. How is it if we would distribute Bitcoins, if we would set up simple fund structures here in Switzerland? It was not a technology request in a way. It was more like using Switzerland as a issuing jurisdiction for cryptos. And so I actually got the first time in contact with Bitcoin in 2013 with such a request. And then in 2014, Vitalik's team knocked at my door, actually not far away from here, Kuppelstrasse 11.
On the other side of the train tracks.
Others actually, where I always say we should have some sign there, because actually everything was born there, and we had lots of meetings there. So early February, I would say, they knocked at my door and asked me, if how could we set up a structure to launch a decentralized open source protocol. They were all distributed. So actually they were working, and we had to set up the structure, the foundation structure, that it was a running structure with all the governance in place. All the tax situation had to be actually dealt with. We got rulings. And then in 2015, there was the Genesis launch, wrung out.
That's an interesting story. So now, in hindsight, you spoke a little bit about what you would do differently and how your firm. When you think, you saw a lot of entrepreneurs, right? And you dealt with a lot of big projects, many of them, still running and quite successful. So when you think back, what do you, or actually today also, when you look at these projects, what do you think really is essential for them to be successful, right? Techies are their own breed of people. They're difficult to deal with sometimes. But what do you think really are the aspects that made the projects that are still successful today what they are?
There are many. If you set up, let's say, a protocol or a project, there are so many aspects you have to deal with. One is, of course, the core technology. You need to have you need to motivate. You need to actually create an environment that all these developers in the world are interested to build on it and use it, a protocol. So that's one thing. So you need to have some spiritual believing that this is the right thing, that this is a good protocol, and people, and you need to convince people and developers actually with facts. Actually, you need to have a good code, good coding, good concept. So it's not talking. It's not like, talking, oh, I have now a new financial product and you will be rich in 10 days. No, it's a good code. That's one thing. And so I saw some really good guys, and working a lot. And we you have to see as a lawyer, it's from technical side, you can't really judge if the code is really good, but you have a certain feeling, and if there is a really good spirit of development, a good spirit in the tech teams, that's one thing. Secondly, you need to have also a little bit of structure. So structure, that means, how do you pay the invoices? How do you pay development work? How do you... all these kind of really nitty-gritty commercial work structure. And not all the developers are good structures, like a chief operating officers. So what I would say, if you have a good development team, you have a good chief operating officer, having all in control, that all the social security numbers are clear, all the tax files are filings made. That's one thing. It sounds not really sexy, but it's a very important part. And then the third issue is you need a team to manage the community. Because a protocol is partly a community ecosystem-driven business. If you have a very good protocol, but you do not have a lot of addresses, a lot of people using it, it's actually not very attractive. So you need to build up a community believing in using it, believing in the protocol, being more on the user side rather than the developer side. So you have the developer community, you have your own community working in the protocol, actually setting it up, and then you have also the user, investor, whatever community, Because, in the investor community, they come much later on because, for example, if you have an application startup and you base your application on an Ethereum network, then it's actually interesting for the investor to look at the network itself. Yes, what kind of network are you using? Is it used? So it's a lot of aspects you have to deal with.
Interesting. And in terms of personalities, right? You met some over the top, bigger than life personalities, right? Some delivered, some didn't deliver. I mean, maybe you can tell a crazy story or just think about some of the characteristics that you think, made some of these projects successful.
You have so many different... just imagine, you have a Gavin Wood, you have a Charles Hodgkinson, you have a Vitalik Buterin. They're all so different in different types, and they are... maybe you can say prima donnas in believing what they do as coding and things like this. And I can imagine that it's very difficult if they're all in the same team, and they were the same team at the beginning, And I was sometimes, I just they had their internal Genesis team meetings, and later on I came in because I said, the technical stuff is your side. We come when it's relevant from a legal point of view. But the air was hot, So you saw that was a lot of. Yes, a lot of, let's say, a lot of hard work they had, and maybe disputes as well. But it was never unfriendly. But you saw that they had their positions to defend, and that was to an extent also good. This actually out of this came all these new protocols, Web3, Gavin and Cardano, and Ethereum. So they all came from, let's say, the same breed, and all developed their own projects.
Interesting. So we now turn a little bit, to your latest venture and what we're really interested. So Signum, as people probably know, and you're building a bank, obviously, from a very small team, from an early startup. So what is of interest to us and to people, that start companies. How maybe we start that. How did you decide, to start Signum, right? You had assisted a number of decentralized projects. Now you're building, you're founding a silo to support the industry. So maybe how what was the reason and how did you come to the conclusion that there was a bank needed? And then we'll want to talk about the culture. So how can you build a culture?
Yeah, look, it was. The idea to build a bank was born in 2017. We were thinking, what is missing? it's actually we need to have a fully digital asset integrated bank. Not only to provide fiat access to some of the projects here, because it's actually a pain to get fiat access, but also to start also to work with FINMA to deal with all these aspects of, and we have two really categories, the crypto category and the what we call the BCP ones, the counterparty-less native utility token side like Ethereum, Bitcoin, and so on. And you have more the what we call the BCP2s. These are the security token and counterparty token side, which is also a little bit different. And then we said, okay, let's think of it, to have. And I'm convinced, even, I mean, when we're talking with the decentralized guys, they say, okay, come on, do we now re-centralize what we decentralize? But my position is we always will have, or at least the next 20, 30 years, centralized elements in the financial industry. We will use a lot of these, hopefully using more and more decentralized elements, decentralized exchange, thing like this, hopefully. But we will never, ever have that in, let's say, done overnight. So we need, for the next 5, 10 years, we need to have a first, let's say, bank doing and having the pain going through it. And it's not like other banking projects just using Bitcoin as a new asset class. We are a fully DLT based. I mean, not based, but all our structures. We don't just have the DLT assets as one asset class. We are fully structured, DLT structured, full platform based, and I'm convinced that we need such centralized structure actually to launch the decentralized products in the future. And the others were convinced as well. So we were there, probably was beer number 5, we were thinking and talking. And I had Matthias Imbach and Manuel Krieger there. They were sitting, and it was Jos Höhner was also from Swisscom was there as well. And then I said, guys, there are some really 3 conditions actually, which we need to do. 3 conditions, and I'm in. Actually, just imagine, 2017, already a full book of work, So I said, I will be in if we do the following. We have a government element in it, because this is a trust element. So Swisscom should be in. I would need to have a top execution team. Top execution. I said, look, I'm 56. I'm becoming 56. I have already the companies in my back work. I can actually help you to set the structures, to build a team, to make the legal outline, to do all this development work. Happy to do that. It's my passion. I love it. But I cannot operationally run it. So if you find a team, and it was November until the end of the year, because they said, because we need to terminate our working contract. So it's actually, can we do that? And said, yeah, it's up to you. So yeah, but we have to then actually send our termination notice until end of December. And I said, yeah, as I said, conditions. One condition I forgot. I said I want to focus. I want to have Swiss-centric, European phase 1, and an angle to Asia. That's precondition number 2 as well, or 3. And we don't touch the US later on, but I want to touch the US once we have a bit more muscles. And so they went back, and 10 days later, I received an email, and they said, we are in. And they said, oh, shit, I probably was. I didn't really believe. I said, oh, shit, maybe don't do business talks when you drink beer. But then I actually said, these guys, I think we could do it. I think, and it was then 21st of December already, And then we actually set up our, let's say, our more like a vision constitution, stamped it, and then the other terminated their working contracts at the end. And then we had to do a lot of, let's say, preparation work. And finally, April 2018, we started.
And who were the first people that you hired to do this venture with you? Because you mentioned that one of your requirements was that you have the team that is capable to do it. But because they say that first 10 people that we hire into a company will either make it or break it. So my question is, how did you choose your team that was up to this task?
I met Matthias Imbach and Manuel Krieger already before. So when you have, let's say, I have in average, now a bit less, but I have in average between 50 to 150 projects on my desk every year. Project teams, entrepreneurs believing, that they can actually change the world. And I had such a good feeling in my stomach when I saw these two guys. And then I had the second wave of good stomach feelings was when they introduced number 3, Gerald from Singapore. And actually, I hadn't to do a lot of interviews. My feeling was, if I have already good feeling with them and they have a good feeling with Gerald, it matches. And it did. My feeling I had in 2017 in December regarding the Exco team did not change. I had not been disappointed until now. And if you work already 3 years with them, can't. I mean, then it doesn't. So these 3 execution guys, Gerald, Manu, and Matthias, they rocked it. And they have the full responsibility and full pain of everything.
And what were some of the specific traits that you observed in them? And what are the values that you look for in other people when you are thinking of doing business with them?
What I like is if somebody asks me first, how can we do it? How can we solve it? And then how much do we earn it? So it's more like this spirit. It's more like the way, guys, we can do it, we will do it. And I see that if they tell me they will do it, then they really do it. Because, I learned in other projects that, yes, I help you, I'm in, but I could not rely. Because if you have so many things on your desk, you need to rely that the other person is doing really what you want. If not, you are regarded as failing, So that's really important that you have a team, you can say, okay, these guys, can I really rely on them? And you can, and that makes you really... And then you start also to have... Then it's also, I would say, how you call it in English? You start to self-motivating yourself or motivating the others. It's more like everybody's motivating because the team is working very well. And just imagine, we were able to get the banking license of a digital bank in 9 months. In 9 months.
Then it sounds like you guys done a lot of hard work to jumpstart the company. But then my question is, how do you make sure that this, how do you build the company values, and how do you make sure that the other people who come in a later stage also adopt these hardworking values, and how do you make sure that they are the right fit to the team that you already built?
The values, that was one thing we did very early in the company. We said, listen, let's sit together, define our values, which was not very difficult because we share some very basic values. And after that, we don't discuss anymore these values. They just are there and they are relevant for us. And things like open, transparent, helpful, team. And not talking, I mean, just team. Everybody talks about teamwork, but team is team. So if your job as a leader in such a company is make your team successful, not yourself, make them others successful. If some of your teammates is successful, celebrate this success. One element is if something's not working, address it. If it's negative, address it directly, always directly, never in a big audience. If you have positive messages, the audience can so as big as possible. If you have negative messages, as small as possible, But tell it, address it, open. And if we see that in our company somebody is having their own agenda, policies, trying to actually set up a special team, supporting him, we don't want that. And I tell you, in the past, if you look, we had to terminate some of the working contracts, and it was not because they were not delivering, they were not fitting in the team. And in a small team, it is so relevant that you have the right persons. The smaller the team is, the more relevant it is that you find the right person. And if you have somebody, okay, and then you see this person is delivering actually very well. They deliver, but something's not working. I mean, gut feeling tell me this is not the team. It's not team spirits. It's working against the team. And then it's another mistake you can do. Because such a person is delivering, has a good delivery, you wait too long. You say, okay, come, and we use the work. It's good. We need it. Anyhow, we are short in capacities. But you should, and that's entrepreneur. I mean, this is entrepreneurial work. To actually look in your mirror and say, guys, or Luka, does this person fit in team? And you say no, terminate the contract. But I tell you, it happens to me every second year that I don't follow my own rules. Because then you employ somebody, especially in a stress situation, you don't have the time to look too carefully. And once you actually have the gut feeling, oh, maybe this person not fitting your team, you are so deep in shit of work, it's okay, let him or her work, and I deal with it later. Mistake.
How is it that you actually realize, okay, this person is not the right fit into the team? So what are some of the warning signs?
Warning signs is, I tell you, it's one thing. One warning sign is absolutely clear. If such a person starts to talk negative about another person, all the lamps should be red. Red. Then you say, why do you tell me this? Tell her, tell him. That's one of the signs, and this is a culture you should not allow in your company. Don't talk negative about other persons. Never. And that's one of the real, and it's a very good sign, I tell you. It's because you will hear and see it a lot,
So when you started, looking for the team, so you have your management and your co-founders, basically, essentially these are co-founders, they're building the team. You're building a bank. So were you looking for bankers or for people that can work in a startup?
Actually, we were looking for both. We were a little bit disappointed with the bankers, I must say, in the beginning, but now we have a very good banking crew as well, coming from the traditional banking world, but having a very actually older generation, not the younger generation, and we have a capped income. So if somebody is working, look, our team, if they were in the open market, they would 3, 4, 5 times earn more. And that's also what we said, guys, this is our investors' money. There is no big salaries. You get shares, that's one of the remuneration you get. Salaries, we will not be a bank as the other banks. So we will earn with the client. And that, if you can give your fingerprint on this principle, you're in. So you already have quite a selection.
Yes. It's probably quick.
It's a very good selection of people coming. So we have, somebody asked us, are you now a tech company or a bank? Okay. Yeah, we are both. We are a licensed bank. And I tell you, if you have a license, life is changing, because then it's the structure, the organization, all these regulations, all these directions you have to follow and set up. And the notification audits you have. This is not startup. The challenge is now that we need to have the startup groove. We need to have the development groove on the one side. On the other hand, we need to be fully compliant with Swiss banking regulation.
And that's actually one of my next questions. So I assume that at the beginning when you started, you were just a startup, and then you moved into being a regulated bank. How was it for your employees? For your did they adapt easily to new processes, regulations, or did you have to help them to adapt to being more structured?
It was not such a difficult process because as from the beginning, because we were a little bit, let's say, second, third generation of startup people, we knew that we had to have a structured way already as from the beginning. So we were very well structured from the beginning. So it was not a change from an absolute chaos into a structure. As from the beginning, it was like really more or less like an army style operation. So it was not a big move. It was more like, now to say, guys, come on now, let's do it and work and don't, even if we have audit number 4, audit number 5, costing us thousands of francs, again, explaining everything. Keep the spirit.
And what do you think that makes good leaders, and how did you choose leaders in your organizations?
Leaders, they need to be themselves. You can't play a leader. You can't play to be the leader. And a leader doesn't want to be a leader. She or he does it because she has the passion. She says, okay, let's do it, and I stand for it. Even if you don't do it, I do it, and I work to it. I work day and night to have it accomplished. So it's the spirit. It's not really the learning, or let's say a lot of PhDs and whatsoever. I mean, can be an indication of let's say of having the passion to do something, but it's you feel it. If somebody can do it, you feel it.
And for example, when you're hiring somebody to join Signum, so what does this person have to have? What are the skills and features that you're looking in this person?
First, such a person has to actually believe, I always ask, in Bitcoin and in Ethereum. If you don't believe in this world, don't work with us. Because, there are some guys, yes, Bitcoin, Ethereum is the first start, but then it will be the institutional market, and then we use the protocols for selling shares and whatsoever. Of course we do that. Of course we do that. And we are happy to do that. And I believe this will be an incredible good future for us. But never forget where it comes from. Never. Never. And we will never, and for me, I think, again, hopefully we will have a lot of protocols. This is what I wish to Crypto Valley. So that's what I also said, we have a lot of applications, startups, but we need the protocols. We need to have the protocols here. They will be one of the main, let's say, basis for development, because they are laying the basis, from the architectural, from the IT architectural software point of view, they lay the base layer, and that's what will be interesting and important in the future. And we in the bank, we have set up a full process to make the protocols bankable, and we discussed it with FINMA. So we have a process to make protocols bankable, and I think this should be a value for the protocols. Not only storing, let's say, Bitcoins or Ethereum, but to make them bankable, accessible. So going back to the question, they need to believe in Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's always. Then they need to have, and then they need to be in for a low salary and high expectation, and they need to be proud to work for us, and not stupid, actually, as well.
Good. And as a follow-up question on that, how do you make sure that you motivate your employee, or are there any special things that you do to keep your employees motivated and believing in the what you're building, even though they're, for example, getting paid less than they would be paid somewhere else?
Now I can tell you what we do in MME, because that's a bit an older company. It was growing as well, and Signum is pretty new. So in MME, you would not believe it. In MME, we had first also our culture, our spirit, We regard us always as a modern young team. Just imagine, we are only 21 years old. So, but now in the mid-range of the big companies, you know. So, but we, and when we started, 3 lawyers, you know, nobody took us serious in Zurich. You know, 3 guys, you know, and now we're growing and growing and growing, but we always kept the same spirit, and this is what the same spirit we have now in Signum. It's open door policy, teamwork. We share, and that's also the way how we distribute our income. We share it. Be positive and all this stuff, and we have a culture of very good events. So we have Christmas events. We have a ski weekend, which we always do in a very remote valley in Switzerland called the Valmüsteier. Very, very nice.
Very remote, yes.
Very remote. Basically in huts, you know, and 2 days. And this gives such strong elements, team elements, and summer events. And in Zug and in Zurich, we have our own bars with a beer tap, you know. So it's that's what we have in our firm. So it's the people, our employees, they eat together, and every Friday night, I tell you, we got complaints from the neighbors. You know, this is amazing. You know, please be a bit more. I mean, reduce your voices because you're celebrating every Friday. COVID stopped it a little bit, but now what I heard from the Zug team, I think they ended up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning over there, you know. So yes, we have a lot of events which we do together, and events apart from work, and we have also clear again agenda on our vision.
So maybe one last question on Signum and you know the competitive environment, right? So I mean now, you know, there's 2 banks. We know that a lot of institutional players are moving in, also in other jurisdictions, right? Clearly. So we also believe that this will be a very large market at some point. But still, I mean, now it is tough. The beginning, the start is tough, and it's quite competitive. So what makes you so positive, you know, for this, not just for the digital asset space, maybe, you know, but also for the technology, right? Because adoption is slow and it takes time. So this goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah,
You're providing
absolutely.
infrastructure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, time is one of our biggest enemy we have. On one hand, we need to develop as fast as possible to be ready, to be ahead from our competitors. On the other hand, we know that the ecosystem is not ready yet. So that's a real challenge what we have, and we are burning every day. And I think it's still. I mean, there is competition, but there's a lot of space as well. I mean, if you just compare what in the banking world, so it's still there's a lot of space, and we need competition. We need other service providers, because they will actually help us to create an ecosystem. They will also help us to create sufficient liquidity, which is actually healthy for us, all of us. So I think if we can even need more competitors, there will be more competitors. It's the ecosystem which has to be built. There are some challenges ahead of us, you know, the new legislation, also infrastructure legislation, tax laws. There are some challenges. I would say there are bigger challenges than just competition challenges ahead of us. And it's a tough environment still, also from a regulatory point of view. But I think I'm still convinced that this is the right way to do it. I'm convinced that this will radically change the financial offerings.
How did you decide to get into law, and when was the first time that you realized that you wanted to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, actually, I was here at the grammar school at the Kantonsschule Zug, and I finished. And my best actually subjects were math and mathematics and physics, and not really languages, I must say. So one of the teachers, he actually said, "Okay, I will come with you, and let's go to the ETH because you should go to the ETH." So I visited the ETH, and I was up there, only men with beards, and walking around, and that's interesting. My cousin was studying law at the same time, and he was inviting me to the university, and I was entering the university. Wow, smoking cigarettes, playing cards, good-looking girls. And I asked, "What do you study here?" And he said, "Law." I think I go for law. So it was not out of passion that I wanted to be the lawyer, But then I started, and I still love it. I thought maybe that was a good decision that I visited. Maybe I would be passionate for physics as well. But law on one hand is also structured like mathematics. It's structured, and I like the structured way. So I felt really comfortable. I did law, and then I did I did my bar exam here in Zug. I was pretty local at that time here in Zug, and I did my PhD. I was at London School of Economics, so I did all what you should have done. I mean, I just did it, but not really. Yeah, I had no idea, what shall I do? So I have been asked by the big law firms to join them. So I actually explicitly chose a law firm which had a local office here in Zug, which is a smaller one, but a very good one. So I worked there. And then it was already from the beginning absolutely clear, but I don't know why. I mean, if you ask me why, I don't know why. It was absolutely clear that I will have my own company. It was clear. It was not even a discussion that I will have my own company. So then that's actually... Yes, that's how I started MME. Then I founded also the VQF here, the biggest self-regulating organization. And yes, it was more like, let's do it. Not too much of strategic thinking. I didn't think half an hour about something. Yes, gut feeling, it's good, could be. Just a little. I mean, I never did something unstrategically. I mean, it all fitted in one. If I'm looking back, it was all one road. It was not like it was really very, very, very much concentrated on one road. But once I said, okay, I do it, I did it. I mean, just did it, and I never gave up.
And what was it? Because you said that you knew from the beginning that you will be your own boss and have your own company. Was it like a feeling, or or you, for example, didn't like to work for others, or what was it exactly?
A feeling. It was a feeling that I want to have my own company. I want to be my own boss. And I tell you, once when we're growing bigger and bigger, I had to change my old company into AGs. So I had to sign my own working contract. Just imagine. But I said, no, I want to sign my own working contract. So I was working how many years? 18 years without a working contract. Now we are AGs. Now I have a working contract. It's a little bit a reduction of freedom, I must say. But I think if you're an entrepreneur and you work in your own company, you have the maximum freedom. And this is for me one of the life quality number ones I have, apart from health and family, to be free.
Amazing. Okay, so one last question before we move to 3 advices. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced during your entrepreneurial journey, and how did you overcome them? Maybe you can give us 1 or 2 concrete examples.
You have sometimes doubts, if you're really on the right way. So it's really doubt. Am I really on the right way? And this is just not to give up. I mean, doubts are a good thing. I mean, they help to shape your thinking. But don't let you be dictated by the doubts. Just use them as saying, "Hey guys, I'm happy that you're here again, and I will talk to you and I will address you. And but yes, now you can actually go to sleep again. The doubts, I think, you have sometimes doubts, if you read on the right way. And I have some, and also I have an expression which I like is the mirror testing. You look in the mirror. So even if you have doubts, but you say, okay, if I fail, but I don't cheat, I don't lie. It's actually okay, it can happen. It's a mirror test. Was I unfair? And if you can actually always look in the mirror and sleep well, like, oh, okay, I'm tired, then you're on the right way. And yes, I mean, and if you do not have a lot of energy, let's say, I mean, a basis of energy in your brain, body, where you need a lot of, let's say, energy, don't do it, forget it. Because if you choose the way to start a company, you need 3 times, 4 times more energy than you ever think of it before you start. No, so energy, handle the doubts, and always look in the mirror and say, okay, fair, clear, true. I would say these are the principles.
One more question. Now that you're speaking about overcoming the doubts, how exactly do you do that? So how do you talk to somebody maybe to get a reality check, or how do you manage to overcome your doubts?
Yeah, it's a bit crowdsourcing. It's if you have doubts, talk with others, share your doubts, and then you can experience that the others have the same doubts, and then you start to make an analysis. Why do we have the doubts? And then it gets into a positive process. Then you turn it from more like a gut feeling, emotional thing into let's deal with them. You go to sleep now, doubts. We work on solutions. Solutions come up. And yes, it's actually sharing your doubts with others, and that's really helpful. Talk.
Very good. So we conclude our podcast or talks with the same question for every guest that we have. So within 90 seconds, Luka, we would like to have you give 3, of the best advices that you have received or you would like to give to early stage entrepreneurs.
I mean, many things I already said. It's let's start with energy. Don't start a venture or a company or a project if you don't have the energy to it. I mean, you need energy, and a lot of energy. And that's one advice. So check your energy reserves if they're ready, if you're happy. And when I'm talking about energy, then I'm also talking about your environment. Your environment must be ready for such a venture as well. For example, I had a wife supporting me. I mean, she was working the whole time. And she said, she was one of the persons telling me when I was a bit doubtful, let's say 1998, shall I now open my already now 34-year-old, my own law firm, or should I proceed working in the bigger one because it's sexy, maybe more reputation? And then she said, hey, do it. So she gave me the last kick to do it. So the energy is also the energy you get from your environment around it. Have enough energy. Second is, apart from the energy, is, as we discussed, handle the doubts. If you will have, on the way up, you will have a lot of doubts yourself, And you need to change your doubts you have into a positive process to change them into solutions. And that's a process. I mean, and don't be shy to share your doubts you have. Don't be shy. Share it. Share them. And the last one is, you will have a lot of negative energy coming against you the whole time. Don't get infected by this negative energy. Just take it as this is a normal way to be successful. You will have to deal not only with positive, which is more hurting, you have to deal and be ready to deal with negative impacts on yourself. Deal with them like if you had a flu or whatsoever. Shut them away.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Luka. It was great that you were joining us, and we're looking forward
Thank
to
you very much.
seeing you again.
This was another episode of Crypto Valley Visionaries Podcast. Make sure to follow us when the mics are off on LinkedIn and Twitter at CV_labs or visit our website at cvlabs.com.